Fans, we're back to continue our talk on the Ken Burns documentary film, The American Revolution. We took a bit of a break, rejuvenated. I turned the heat on in my apartment. It was a little cold. It was a brisk 58 degrees in here. We're in the throes of winter.
We're trying to mimic.
Kind of feeling like we're in Valley Forge.
Valley Forge, Morristown, Quebec.
Yeah. Felt that way. I think the cold was getting to John a little bit.
Yep. So I got it rejuvenated. Got a fresh cup of Joe.
Fresh cup of, how is it? Did you try it?
I haven't had it yet.
Put some hair on your with that stuff.
Seattle's best.
Is it the best that Seattle's got?
I think so.
It's no Starbucks.
So
before we get back into here, just a little bit of banter before we get back in, since it's a new episode. I wanted to let the fans know we did get access back to our Google account. Have I updated the fans on that? Did I? I think I did, right?
Yeah.
No explanation given as to why we lost it, but we got it back. And John's kind of made an interesting purchase that I found a little odd. Why? What did you just buy, John?
I bought a new Chromebook.
That is made by
Acer.
Yeah. Powered by
Chrome OS.
You know what I'm getting to. Why are you going deeper into the belly of the beast? After all that talk, fans, we had all that talk about how Google is scaring us, going to delete. Now, they just erased our email address out of nowhere, and you're going to put all of your personal information on one of their computers? Why would you do that?
In their cloud, too. And I got Gemini for free. They gave me Gemini for a year premium.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why.
So now I'm not even using ChatGPT anymore. I'm using Google's AI generative models to make all my pictures.
Which I don't know which is worse.
We got a couple laughs out of a few of them.
I'm just saying as far as surveillance.
That's a good point.
Well,
nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. I needed a new one. My screen was kind of messed up for a while. I got a Black Friday deal. Went for it.
So we're caffeinated up. John's got his Google Chromebook opened up. I refuse to let him connect to my internet. I will not let him do that in my apartment. And we are caffeinated up. We left off. Where did we leave off? The Declaration of Independence was signed.
Declaration of Independence.
John's amped up. He listened to a couple Ken Burns clips to get fired up.
The Patriots foray into Canada did not go so well.
Yes.
They're on the way back south. The British are really upset, and they send the Navy over. They're sending the British Navy over.
Now they're like, this is real. This is real.
July of 1776.
Just imagine yourself opening up, somebody getting the mail, picking up the mail, checking in your mailbox, and then you just open up like, what's this? Oh, something from the colonies. What do they have to say? Any new news? No news is good news. Bad press is good press. Right there, George.
That would have been George III would have had quite the breakfast that morning.
I guess that's also a point that we didn't really talk about. George III had just gotten, like, pretty soon around when this all happened, George III took over the throne, no?
From his father, yeah.
Yeah.
George II was in power during the French and Indian War, the 7 Years' War. He came in the 1760s.
So it's also a similar situation where when you have that change in power, it also adds a little bit of like, wait, they're taking all of our freedoms away, and this new young kid thinks
Well, initially they used to go to him. Before they separated, they were pleading to the king to speak on their behalf to Parliament, because Parliament was the one passing the taxes and all that, and they were basically pleading to the king, hey, you can defend us.
Please.
It's your honor and your rights. Your need to defend your colonists, your loyal colonists. Do it. And
who did they address the Declaration of Independence to? Like, did they say "Dear George" or did they say, or did they just start coming out and saying it right off the bat? You know, did they say like "To whom it may concern" or?
You mean,
like, did they say "Dear"? Like I said, like "Dear George," "To whom it may concern."
It was
attention.
a Dear John letter. It was a Dear John letter.
It kind of was a little bit. No,
it was directed primarily to King George III at this point. Yeah, because.
But how was it addressed? Like what? Like, you know, they have the document. Well, and I guess the document that they have is America's copy, right? Like, I wonder whatever happened to the copy that got sent to King George. I guess he tore it up. Like, what did he do with it? Like, what would you do with it if you got that?
I probably wouldn't frame it. Probably would be the first thing I do. I wouldn't necessarily need to laugh every morning. Just have that, and you're sitting in your,
or something like maybe to
privy.
him. You think he used it as TP?
Could have.
This is what it's worth. And then, like, I wish they would have kept like the envelope that they sent it in. Like, wouldn't it be funny to have like, King George, Buckingham Palace, England, like however it was addressed.
It still exists. It's in the UK's National Archives in Kew. Yeah.
Wow.
The official signed parchment copy is on display at the National Archives in DC.
So the actual one that King George read is see, now that would be something I'd be more interested in seeing, I think.
What he actually
yeah. The tears, wetted by his tears when he read that.
It arrived in England in July 76 and was confiscated by British officials. Copies of this broadside are now held by the National Archives in Kew, London, and West Sussex Record
The broadside, is that what they call it? They were broadsided by this.
A Dunlap broadside, whatever that. Yeah. The official signed copy of the Declaration is on display at the National Archives of D.C. This version was ordered by Congress on July 19th, signed by the delegates on August 2nd.
What?
But he got the copy.
He got the copy before the one that they ended up signing that's on the national.
The official copy is actually still in D.C. That's the one that was signed in August of 76.
August?
Yeah. Signed by delegates primarily on August.
What's all this July 4th talk?
They got him the hot press right off the press.
The first draft.
He sent it to the king. Let him chew on that.
What if they changed it?
Like he read one thing and is operating on one set of like rules, and then the Americans are operating on another pretense.
Yeah, like
what smart military move. Smart.
Like what they sent King George was like way nicer. Or what if it was like, yeah,
way
all men.
Listen,
George, we know all men aren't created equal, right?
A lot of air quotes.
Like
equal. All men created equal.
Listen, George, let's not get out of hand here. I'm not saying all men are created equal, but what I'm saying is the rich people, all us richies, all the riches, we're all equal, right? So leave us alone.
We're all one of you. We're one of you.
George III. I would have. Imagine he was like taking a poop and someone, hey, George, got some mail for you here. Broadsided? Or did the English think that they were broadsided by this?
No, that's what the name of the actual paperwork that what it was printed on, a Dunlap broadside.
Oh, I thought
it's like
is that where the phrase comes from? Being broadsided?
I think that's more related to the Navy. I think that's a naval.
Oh no, I think it has to do with. I think it has to do with the Declaration of Independence. Fans, you heard it here first. When you tell someone you were broadsided by something, it means that it's derived from King George taking a poop on the toilet, getting delivered the Declaration of Independence on a broadside parchment.
He was the first one to read it and didn't say anything to Parliament until October.
See, like this
on Halloween of all days, October 31st. I wonder if he showed up in Parliament wearing that,
dressed up like John Hancock.
It's Halloween. You're gonna love this one. You're gonna love this trick.
See, like, why wasn't this kind of stuff covered in the documentary? This is why we need nailing history.
It was read. The first public reading in America was done on July 8th. King George didn't get his hands on it until mid-July. Parliament, the king's formal public response came months later when he addressed Parliament on October 31st, 1776.
Do you think they were pissed?
After the document was published in the London Gazette on August 10th. 2.5 months went by.
Wait, so it was published?
So people knew about it, but he didn't say anything for 2.5 months about it.
Could you imagine?
What's he stewing on? What took him so long?
He was just trying to figure out, what side to take.
He probably thought there was still a chance for them to come back. Thought they were bluffing.
You think? Well, they didn't do much to help that.
I think he was dumbfounded.
He was broadsided.
Oh, Georgie.
Oh man. So that's where we sit in the time of America.
So when he was doing that, that's when it started popping off in Long Island. So all this is happening. Washington has moved down from New England to New York.
And we're in episode 3. Now let me say, episode 3, the title is called The Times That Try Men's Souls. Synopsis. Washington abandons New York City and flees across New Jersey before attacking Trenton.
That was after the fact. That's when he...
Well, it's a one-sentence IMDb summary.
Oh. So they're preparing for the British Navy to come.
In New York.
New York.
New York Harbor is the... Boston Harbor's yesterday's news.
It starts moving south.
Right.
To New York.
And I don't know if that's because of the Hudsons. Like, they've kind of like, we got the Hudson separated. We have the Hudson.
It was probably the most strategic asset at that point. Yeah.
They're still trying to get the Hudson.
Yep.
So that they can separate the bozos in New England from the middle states.
Yep. And it kicks off with the Battle of Long Island.
Long Island, New York. That's that little tail that comes off of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to Long Island?
Yes, Massapequa.
Really?
I had friends there from college. Live there.
Is it nice?
It's like where suburbia was invented in America.
Oh, really?
Pretty much. Yeah.
I've never been.
What's the town names?
Montauk.
Massapequa, Montauk. That's the Hamptons.
Well,
Wantagh. The Wantagh had a friend from Wantagh, Massapequa, Belmore.
You don't know anyone from the Hamptons?
My Hero sandwiches. What's his name talks about My Hero? My friend talked about My Hero a lot. Tim Dillon mentioned them on one of his podcasts. Apparently they make the best chicken cutlet sandwich.
There goes my hero. Is that what the song's about, you think?
Yes.
Broadsided.
So Long Island opens up.
Well, first of all, the episode opens up with the quote that made me the most mad in the entire series. And maybe it didn't make you as mad, but fans, this is how episode 3 opens up with Maya Josanoff. Maya Yosanoff. The quote is, "The United States came out of violence." My subtext is, no grow up, might as well spit on the graves of the soldiers who fought it. Back to her quote, "We do a disservice to the people who lived through it to plaster over the violence and talk about it like a bunch of men signing documents in Philadelphia." In other words, we need to bastardize these people and show their true colors of how the independence was brought on by bloodshed, not, diplomacy. But I would say it's a perfect mixture of the two. You can't have one and not the other.
Or not expect something to happen, yeah.
So you can't tell me that these men meeting in Philadelphia and like standing up to the British government wasn't like a brave thing to do.
in comparison to the fighting?
Well, no, I'm not saying. I'm saying it's both. It's both.
I wouldn't even say it's brave. I would say they would say it's necessary. Bravery was probably the secondary construct. It was a secondary thing of importance to those people doing it. It's like, we have to do this. It's not a matter of being brave or what's right or wrong. It's
good for them. I think you can't have one without the other. I get that, but
I just think it's, again, funny.
It's a stupid way to. It's a stupid thing to say. It's a war. No, it was violent. It's not like it was any more violent than most. Wasn't other
as
wars.
Violent probably as the French Revolution, which I'm sure most of these interviewers love and studied that in college all up and down all day.
Well, I think
they love the French Revolution because.
And I did read some commentary too. They really made, like, going back a couple episodes, they really made the New England people seem like just like uneducated, rough, like rebels. You know, like when the Tea Party was going on, tarring and feathering the tax guy.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of made him seem like just real, like barbaric. Like they're kind of trying to paint this picture that like the United States or the Patriots, you know, you got the Patriots and you got the Loyalists. No, you got the Patriots, you got the Redcoats.
The Tories.
The Tories are the Loyalists. You got the Redcoats. But anyway, the Patriots were like an uneducated, like violent mob is how they treated it, which is partly the case, but I also think that they were educated enough to understand. If they weren't educated, they would have maybe just fell in line.
Well, yeah. Well, I think it's well known that the colonies in general had a higher literacy than other colonies in the English Empire, anywhere in the world probably. New England in particular had the highest level of literacy possibly in the world at that time.
Yeah.
Going down like the
so they weren't dealing. They're not dealing with a bunch of like
idiots.
Yeah, which is kind of how it was painted to some extent, and you can kind of work it in both ways. You can make it seem you're making it seem more impressive of what they did, you know, by saying like this was a bunch of uneducated whatever,
right,
like rising up and whatever. But you can also say it's like these weren't great men who were trying to stand up for independence or whatever. These were men who were just mob mentality anarchists.
Yeah, that was one side of it for like those rebel rallies, but then the ones that had the wealth and the means were painted as
slave owners
that wanted to keep what they had. Yeah, and the British were moving in towards a more like call it liberal. They were like becoming more. They were seen as more of the progressive group at that time period. I think in comparison to the conservative wanting to maintain the status quo.
Yeah,
Virginians.
So it opened up to, in my opinion, to like, oh, okay, the Declaration of Independence, great, you know, that's nice, but you know, it wasn't, you know, let's
not all cutesy dudesy. Let's eat hot dogs 200 years from now and play played cards.
Yeah, right, and like put George Washington up on this pedestal, but I mean, in reality, they were like men of their time and great men, and they all came together when they did. They all looked past each other's individual differences to come together for a common cause. I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's impressive.
It was on by a shoestring. It was holding on by a thread. There were times.
Yeah. And that's just impressive to me that they were all able to come together. That's how it's romanticized, is like just a group of people who had nothing in common got together for a common goal. But, you know, you got to shove the violence into it, which, I mean, there obviously was, right? And I think even just in general, well, I guess you can't really say, like, it's interesting to think about war in terms of the violence that you have, because, like, you know, they talk about in the Revolutionary War, it was a lot of bayonet fighting. That was like kind of the fighting of the time was like mostly bayonet. So it's like close combat, stabbing, looking somebody in their eyes when you're freaking stabbing somebody. I mean, that's intense. These are intense, bloody battles. And then you fast forward to like the Civil War is like artillery's big, I think, you know, and you're getting a lot of like the mass casualties with that. Then you fast forward to like World War I, World War II, where you're just like dropping bombs.
Machine. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you're just dropping bombs like no like over towns and like decimating villages. And like every war is something different. Then you look at like present day wars where like you can freaking have a drone shot of like one individual person, and like, well, what kind of violence are like, you know, is
the
that
intimacy of violence has changed over the centuries. Yeah,
but like the intimacy, but it's like what's more violent, being able to do somebody walking down the street and getting vaporized without even knowing it, or like, you know, this where like it's the soldiers killing each other. You know, I don't know.
I think you're left to me thinking like you can't feel it. It's left to not feel as bad if it's gamification. It's been gamified a lot now.
What do you mean?
Like people being able to call a drone strike. I think by it being less intimate now, the people don't have to have the same emotional attachment to violence that they used to. You stab someone in the heart, you're just like, that guy probably had a wife, maybe he had kids,
and
he's
you're
like
watching
my
him.
age, or he's a young man.
Could have been as we've been reminded many times in this documentary, could have been your brother.
Yeah.
It
was a civil war. It became a civil war.
I don't like that phrase.
Well, it's because the phrase for the American Civil War has been bastardized. It's not a true war.
But I remember our bozo tour guide at the Museum of the American Revolution also said that it was like when he started hitting the Southern Theater, he's like, yeah, a lot of people say this is more of a civil war at this point in the game.
In the South, yeah. Well, some of the Patriots and Loyalists were really, the violence between them was pretty bad. But at that point, I don't know, they're all also 5 years into the war. I mean, you're either going to be a full-on raging Loyalist or a Patriot.
Yeah, at this point, if you hung on for that long.
Seems like the Loyalists played pretty dirty, though, too.
Sure did. So let's go to Long Island, John.
We're on Long Island.
George Washington's there.
George Washington's there.
The birthplace of suburbia.
His army's on Brooklyn Heights. British Navy's coming into New York Harbor. And he leaves open the Jamaica Pass. Game over.
You said you were going to take this one. It's kind of from what I remember, I didn't take many notes on this one, but from what I remember is George Washington made a very grave flaw in his fortification of the area. There were 3 passes that the British could have taken from New York Harbor through Long Island, from south to north through Long Island, to then ultimately lay siege onto New York. And George Washington fortified 2 of them, and he didn't fortify the Jamaican Pass,
which was the furthest east of the passes,
which is kind of like the furthest from where the British ships were. I guess he figured, like, we'll just stop them here. They're not going to make their way over there. And then the British kind of knew that. They scoped it out. They saw that, and they went around.
They went around and outflanked his army position in the center. And then they basically just had to hightail it up to Brooklyn Heights, try to cross the water, which was impressive. So basically they routed them on Long Island itself. The Americans had to get over to Manhattan. Otherwise they were going to be pinned in, and war could have ended right then. And then overnight, they basically managed to do a kind of a preliminary to the crossing of the Delaware. They crossed the East River over into Manhattan. Was it 4,000 people, they said? Going back and forth. Somehow the British weren't alerted to it. And in the morning, all the Americans were over in Manhattan.
So then they were protected, and they were back. They were able to then retreat more. They
kept retreating up Manhattan. There was a big battle
in Harlem.
Not Harlem, before on Biscayne Bay. What was it? The Bay. There was another big engagement from Long Island. And so then, basically Washington's troops made their way up Manhattan. The general of the British was a William Howe. And he kind of just drug his feet a little bit. Didn't move too quickly.
From the British. Kind of yeah.
And basically, that eventually the British took New York for that reason. They basically held it until the end of the war.
Yeah. They felt as though, I kind of alluded to this too. It seemed like the difference in this war from like previous wars that that Britain was used to fighting. There was individual, like if you took the capital of a country, you won the war. But I think in the colonies, there wasn't a capital, right? So like
Philadelphia
kind of was, and they do end up taking Philadelphia, but it didn't matter as much because there was no capital, right? So there was no strategic city to like take where you would say like we've taken it, surrender.
Yeah. Well, the power structures, they weren't like in Europe where the power structures centered in a Paris or they centered in a London.
Yeah.
They were far more dispersed and decentralized just in how it developed.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where the delay, like we have New York. We like, I feel like there might have been a sense of like, we won the war. We're going to win the war. There's no way they're going to beat us if we don't have New York.
And then they just kept taking that mindset to each port town down the coast, from there to Philadelphia to Charleston to Savannah. The British won the coastal game. If the colonies were only really 10 miles in from the water, from the ocean,
yeah,
I think the war would have turned out differently. But because so many of the fighting happened in the interior, like once the British were on the interior, like that's when the Americans were shining at their bows, and they did a lot of guerrilla tactics. And
yeah, it was similar to like any other wars that you hear of, where it's like terrain that you're not used to, or you're fighting somebody who knows land. Vietnam's probably the best example of that.
Yeah,
of modern day. But yeah, so they took New York, and then that was the end of New York for the whole time.
Yeah,
right.
They crossed over Fort Lee. Was it Fort Lee? So then they got over. So they fled up to Manhattan, and then where the George Washington Bridge is today is basically where he had to do another retreat over the Hudson River, and that took them from Fort Washington over to Fort Lee in New Jersey, and that's where our girl, what's her name, showed up on the scene.
Not Molly Pitcher, right? The other woman who they make a point. We talked about this. She was the first woman to get
Margaret Corbin.
She was the first woman to get disability.
Yep.
From the army. But it was like a tenth of what the men got.
Ken Burns definitely made a point of that. Definitely said that.
She took over. Her husband died. Her husband got killed, like manning artillery, and then she took over.
And she got shot in the arm. I mean, she got owned.
Yeah, and she kept going.
Fine. Yeah, she was tough.
Good for her.
So then, they ended up in New Jersey, and they basically gave the British the slip twice out of New York, like once. But then she had the Hessians climb up the side of Fort Lee, and that sounded pretty impressive.
Yeah, they thought that it could have never been climbed, right?
Yeah.
So
then they were hightailing it. They ended up in Hackensack area. British were still.
So at this point, they're
reeling.
Well, England's kicking names and taking butt.
It's the Empire Strikes Back episode. Yeah. Like,
what do you mean?
Like the British send the big guns.
Yeah.
The ships, the troops.
And nothing's going right for the Continental Army. Depleted, and now they're headed down to New Jersey.
They're in New Jersey.
Well, Pennsylvania, right?
Not yet.
They
don't move into Pennsylvania and Brandywine until after Howe leaves New York.
Well, they have to be in Pennsylvania in order to cross the Delaware
Bay
into Trenton.
Well, they're in New Jersey. Yes.
They're in like the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area.
Yeah. Kind of near the Pennsylvania Water Gap.
Yeah, Delaware Water Gap.
And then the Hessians are chasing them. And then one night, December of 1776.
December 25th of 1770. So it's cold, the winter, everyone's bummed out. And I think Washington's like, we need a win. We need a W. We're cooked.
Hal keeps footing around.
I think he just was like, we won. I think was the general thing. It's like, we're just dominating them.
They slogged through Blizzard Condition. Nathaniel Greene and John Sullivan put it to the Hessians.
Your notes are way lamer than mine. They put it to them?
That's what Gemini said. Let me just have my actual notes. They didn't do great. Oh, our friend Charles Lee. He gets picked up by the British at a bar. Guy has to get his whistle wet.
Is that what they call it?
That's what I'm calling it.
Get his whistle wet.
He got busted at a bar in Baskin Ridge.
And Lee is like a high commanding officer of the
He
Continental
thought
Army.
he outranked Washington. Like he saw himself as like at least an equal to Washington, if not a superior.
Oh yeah, they were beefing. Lee and Washington were not them boys. They would be like, let me think. Who would that be like?
Ooh, I got.
What would be a good comparison? I'm thinking of sports.
Oh, and they said the British were really not nice to the New Jersey residents. I also have here 3,000 New Jersey residents sold out for a full pardon from the British.
Yeah, I think I feel like New Jersey fell fairly quickly into British.
Man, the war could have ended in December of 1776, but Washington ended up receiving reinforcements and decided to recross the Delaware River to stick it to the Hessians on Christmas.
Yeah, I think this was more of a play to, honestly, I think he knew that he needed a win. And I always felt as though this was, I guess to miss Maya Josenov's point, I always felt that this was a bit barbaric. Christmas Day, dude.
Those German guys.
Yeah, those German guys having fun. I always envision them like drinking some beer, relaxing, day off, and George has to come in and ruin their day off.
They were hired hands. Many of them didn't want to be there.
I don't know. They were painted as like very scary people. Like these guys, these Germans were like, they were the savages.
They had those
of Europe.
hats.
The big hats were supposed to make them look taller. Those goofy little hats with the ball on top. They were scary and they were barbaric. They were gang banging and
they didn't see it coming. They were hanging in Trenton. Nathaniel Greene and John Sullivan just crushed them.
Yeah, well, they didn't see it coming because it was Christmas Day, which I guess, hey, that's how else are you going to win a war like this, right?
Yep. But they said the POWs were treated pretty well, and they were seen as victims of the British tyranny. And many of them ended up becoming U.S. citizens and brought their families over eventually.
So they actually, you think they felt bad, like, oh, you guys are.
They did say that. No, they said that in the thing. They were like, might have been like, part of the reason why Washington wasn't as harsh to them was because it's like, these guys are just fighting because they themselves are living under tyranny in Germany. Their own princes and dukes are sending them over here to fight a war that they're not.
Just to get in good graces with the British.
Well, to make money for their king. Like they're fighting the battles for somebody else, not for their own selves. That's what they said in the document. I don't know if that would be the reason, but then I have here Washington's army became respectable after this fight.
Yeah, it was a big turning point.
But the New Englanders still wanted to bail, and he begged them to stay. Half of the troops went home, and the other half agreed to stay on for another 6 weeks.
They were like not getting paid. Or
they signed up like 1 year enlistments.
Like
1 year at a time.
I have in here, this is where I may have messed the timeline a little bit and learned a little bit more. I always thought that they went from Trenton to Valley Forge.
Okay.
I think a lot of people may think that.
Why do you think, how would that have happened? They crossed the river, beat up the Hessians, and
then crossed back.
And then just went to Valley Forge. Okay.
I guess I just always thought that was the winter. There was one winter. You don't really think. So I have in here ended after Trenton, no T's for Valley Forge ? And then I think one of my first notes for then I have like my fourth note of the following episode 4. Here we go. Valley Forge's time to shine. Oh, wait, I guess I'm a year early. We're in 1777 and that was 1778. So yeah, I was way off on my timeline for that, but I have that. And then I have also, we're halfway through at this point when I wrote this, we're halfway through episode 3 and not one mention of Alexander Hamilton at all.
I don't know when he became his aide-de-camp.
But even just in general, though, he was a player, wasn't he? Or not really? Too young?
Still quite young.
I thought he was like a player in the Continental Congress or something, or have to rewatch.
March of 1777 is when he became Washington's aide-de-camp with the rank of lieutenant colonel. So he didn't join his staff until then.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like he was, well, whatever. So episode 3 basically ends at the Battle of Trenton, right?
And then they end up camping in Morristown, New Jersey. Washington's troops.
That was the Valley. That was the Valley Forge before Valley Forge.
And they said it was just as bad as Valley Forge, if not worse.
Did they say that was the worst?
Or that might have
winter?
been the following winter. He wintered in Morristown twice.
Yeah, I think it was the winter after Valley Forge, not to get ahead of ourselves, was like the worst winter ever. Where like you could walk across the Hudson or something crazy.
The New York Harbor froze.
Yeah. I think that was the winter of 78 to 79, I think. But I mean, it seems like, I don't know, is global warming real, people? Who knows? But it seems like winter was way worse back then, doesn't it?
This is 79 to 80 was the worst winter of the Revolutionary War.
Okay.
And the Continental Army was encamped at Jockey Hollow in Morristown. So after Trenton, they end up camping. They end up pushing the British back enough. They end up camping in Morristown. British fall back into New York.
Sure. Ken? Line?
And then, so that ends. I've got Greenwood's clothes baked in oven and was bathed in sulfur to kill lice.
Oh, Johnny Greenwood?
Yeah.
Dude, that's the thing. There was this running thing, this whole, and you learn.
Pick a guy to like follow.
Yeah, but you learn about the guy. He was one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And like, I guess we could talk about this now.
Yeah.
You remember they're following this guy. He's from Maine, I think, or New Hampshire. He's from like northern New England somewhere. And it's a kid, and he joins, and he's a fifer.
Right.
And he was at Lexington and Concord, I think.
He was in the Quebec campaign. I think he was up with
He's like, he
Arnold.
finds himself, he's kind of like this like Forrest Gump type character, right? Where he like finds his way into like all of these different battles. Then he winds up being on a ship, a merchant ship. Let me see. I got the notes here of this guy. Episode 6. It must have been episode 5. Yeah. This John Greenwood guy. John Greenwood. So then he went from a fife to a privateer, like working on crushing the British Navy. Then he ends up being a dentist and was Washington's dentist who gave him those crazy dentures.
Made of like ivory and all kinds of crap.
So like, I don't know how true it is, but this guy, like, I mean, he's like a Forrest Gump type character, right? Like where he just always kind of wound up in the...
Until he like goes home and then like, yeah, I think the note I just read of him going home was like him ending. Like that was his end of the story.
No, because then he
signs
up. Then he signs up to be a privateer and like starts like up boats, British ships, like when later on in the Southern campaign.
Are you thinking of? Sure. I'm on Wikipedia right now. Doesn't go into. He's had a rank of fifer. That was.
Oh, that's what Ken Burns told me. I'm pretty sure.
I think he exited the scene when he went home after Trenton.
John Greenwood, dentist. Oh man, he looks like a goofball.
His father basically took his clothes because he was covered in lice, baked them in an oven, and he doused them in sulfur to kill the lice from his body. And then Joseph Plum Martin became the guy that they started talking about all over the place.
I think you're wrong here, dude.
The Joseph Plum Martin Trail in Valley Forge. Was just walking on that the other day.
Yeah, I run that. That's the 5 mile loop, right? John Greenwood was a privateer in the Revolutionary War, serving on several privateering ships after his time in the Continental Army. He first joined a privateer ship called the Cumberland after leaving the army in 1776 and served on privateering vessels throughout the war, being captured multiple times. After his second enlistment ended in 1776, he joined the crew of the privateer ship Cumberland. He served on several more privateering ships, including the Tartar, and was captured 3 more times before the war ended. So that guy was all over the place.
I think my notes were so disjointed about him, I couldn't keep track. Guy was all over.
He's like a Forrest Gump type guy.
Yeah. So that was episode 3. Good, but not great. You kept texting me. Matt got out ahead of me a little bit watching these, and he ended up on episode 4 before I did. And he told me to hold on to my whiskers.
I want the fans to know too. Wait for episode 4. Episode 4 is the best episode by a mile. No?
Give Ken Burns his 6 hours of your time initially.
The first 2 episodes are, I don't know. I guess
once they get into the fighting and the battles and the movements of the troops, like I said, it gets more interesting. Like when you see like what's happening in the fields.
Yeah, and this is the thick of it. It opens up, episode 4 opens up talking about getting the French involved in the war.
My quotes are, Benny Franklin knew there was no chance without France. He promised French Minister Vergennes that if France and Spain joined America, the Brits would be crushed. Vergennes said, nah. Franklin knew at that point that America needed a big W. Some foreshadowing.
Which, yes. Okay. So, you know who else gets introduced in episode 4?
Oh.
Little Iris DeRode talk.
Oh. You did yeah.
Total babe.
I think it's objectively, we could objectively say between her and Vinnie Brown, the most attractive.
Vin Brown with the gray dreadlock. Iris DeRode, she's got like a very small hint of French accent.
She's Dutch.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
Well, same thing, right?
Okay, sure.
Babe. Just nice, blonde hair, blue-eyed.
Gets really excited talking about history.
But she's definitely French. She's a French fan. I do have a note here. John found out she is from UVA. So we were wondering, maybe she went to Miller's. You think she ever went to Miller's? Partied up there? Bought a pack of smokes up there in Miller's, shooting some billiards.
Little PBR. Just like there at the bar, just like playing pool, just a ringer at the pool table, just talking history. Talking French movements. French
Revolution, That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. She seemed cool.
She hustled some people for sure and could one of the boys.
She seemed cool. She was beautiful. She has a Twitter account. I should follow her for the Nailing History, right?
Yeah.
I will.
We should get an interview.
Oh my God. That's a dream. Dream guest. I have my first note in episode 4 because I was struggling a little bit. Episode 4, starting this one. God, 2 hours is so long. Come on, KB. Make it 12 1-hour episodes. This is 2025. No one has an attention span. 2 hour long episodes is absurd. And I don't know why he has to do it that way. Again, I get it. It's not for entertainment, blah, blah, blah. But 2 hour long and you don't want to stop I don't know. I had a hard time stopping in the middle. I would just fall asleep and then have to catch up where I was. I never on purpose said, I'm going to stop here. They had a couple obvious cut scenes where they would go black, fade to black, and then fade back
Raise
in.
Up. Yeah, I tried to pause at those points if I was getting tired.
Yeah.
Where are we? January 1777.
Iris DeRode. She knocked us off. Knocked us off the rails. Yeah. Google her. IRIS space DE space RODE.
So here we got, a lot of thick of it in the New Jersey's happening. So before Washington ended up wintering in Morristown, a little more going on. Trenton They pick up Trenton. The British fall back on Princeton, and Washington gives the slip. He's basically able to do like a movement up into Princeton, and the Cornwallis didn't know what he was doing. And the Americans get another big dub, get a win there.
Where?
At Princeton.
I don't have that written down here.
The Americans surprise the Brits, though Hugh Mercer is killed. Washington, while not Napoleon, holds it all together. So they end up moving into winter quarters, and it's at this winter quarters in Morristown that finally Washington gets the memo, and he says, all right, I'll take the vax. You got me.
We're all going to get our
my
passports.
guys to go. We want my guys to go out to bar. Charles Lee's been always begging to go out. We're going to get them all vaxxed. Single most important, I have him here in my quotes, in my notes, single most important military decision that Washington made throughout the war was having his troops inoculated.
I missed that one. I'll be honest, the whole vaxing situation, like comparison didn't really hit me. I missed that. So I'm glad you picked up on that. That's pretty funny.
The next thing here, I have the British plan. So now the Brits are like kind of stressing out. Like they came in with the big punch, kicked Washington out of New York, but obviously he's holding his own.
Yeah, and they got denied entrance to Philadelphia, basically.
Mm-hmm. So Foreign Minister Lord George Germain is stressing out big time because the war is dragging on. They're losing probably, like the British public's probably like, why are we still doing this? We shouldn't be smoking them. General George Burgoyne, hotshot, tough guy, basically convinces Germain to let him lead an army from Canada to Albany. So he wants to reverse, what Arnold tried doing the year before, taking his troops down the Hudson.
Also, subcontext fans, just imagine a Polish engineer while all this is silently reaching the shores of Philadelphia and the Delaware River.
Going and meet Ben Franklin.
Go to meet Ben Franklin and take an engineer's test. That's a little subcontext.
What can I do here? How can I help?
Teaser.
So Burgoyne, and they come up with this three-headed army approach. Burgoyne wants to lead an army down from Canada into Albany, and there would be two other British armies. One would be kind of going through Lake Ontario and kind of wrapping around, and they would all be converging into Albany. But Howe didn't want to do that. He's like, Howe had this mindset, like you said earlier, about let's capture the capital. He kind of had more of an old school British, like England, like European mindset of let's capture the capital. So Howe said, no, screw you, Burgoyne. I'm going to go from New York. We're
going to go up the Chesapeake Bay.
Not even the Delaware River. Like, forget that. We'll go the long way.
We're going to go the long way. We might as well take the Beltway during rush hour on a Monday morning. Old 495.
So Burgoyne and Howe were at loggerheads. And Howe screwed up, I think. He wanted Philly. So he basically said, do your own thing. They started doing their own thing. Burgoyne's like, all right, I'll go take Albany. You do you.
Piece of cake, right? So he goes in and Burgoyne crushes at Ticonderoga.
He smokes them.
And how he did that was he didn't take. There was Mount Independence that overlooked Fort Ticonderoga, and the Continental Army. Who I don't know who was leading the Continental Army here. Was it Gates? Was it Gates? Was it Horatio Gates? I think it probably was.
Arnold's still up there.
It's Gates and Arnold.
Arthur St. Clair. He led the American army at Fort Ticonderoga in 1777 and ordered the evacuation of the fort due to British General John Burgoyne's positioning of cannons on Mount Defiance. Yes, they moved cannons up the mountain.
I saw Mount Independence.
Yeah, they were shocked.
Is it the same mountain? Maybe two different names. But I have a note here, and I didn't remember. Did they lose Fort Ticonderoga because of not taking the high ground? And was that where they ignored our boys' suggestion? Or was that a different battle of Saratoga that happened at?
You might be thinking, was that also West Point?
I don't think
No.
it was West Point. They didn't lose West Point.
I think it was. No, I think it was the putting a gun up on.
I remember thinking that like somebody like so basically what happened was there was a big mountain next to Fort Ticonderoga, and the Continental Army was basically like, we're not sending this people. Like it was a big strategic because you want high ground to overlook, and they didn't put any defenses on Mount Independence. Here, John's nodded his head.
Yes, our boy, friend of the show, Tadeusz Kosciuszko, the Polish military engineer, recommended placing artillery on the top of Sugarloaf Hill, now known as Mount Defiance. He recognized the hill overlooked both Ticonderoga and the fortifications on Mount Independence, making the American position vulnerable if the British occupied it. Sure enough, what happened?
I feel it was
British
a classic,
occupied.
it was a classic, oh, okay, nerd, okay, engineer nerd. We're not doing that, I'm not, and they didn't listen, and then they lost Fort Ticonderoga, which is a big loss.
Big loss. So then the Americans are reeling. They're coming down the Hudson, but they're being a thorn in Burgoyne's side. They're felling trees and they're doing all kinds of stuff to kind of slow their advance up down the Hudson River. They end up in Bennington, Vermont.
They stop in there for a bit. I have here, this is where they had a nice exterior shots of Monticello. Like right in the thick of this, right? Getting like
Oh yeah, they just
Ticonderoga.
cut to like a scene, like a random 30-second. I think I texted you like that was weird. Like, why do they talk about that here?
What, the Monticello?
Like just like a little subset, like the 5-minute, like a segue. They just started talking about women in the war. It was just like something thrown in. I forget. I remember texting you. That was really odd that they decided to talk about that right now.
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, this was when they like kind of did that, not making it look very modest.
So what's going on here? So you got two British armies basically in the field, Burgoyne's and Howe's. Burgoyne's coming down the Hudson. Ticonderoga's been lost. He's pushing down.
Yeah.
Horatio.
At some point, Gates takes over
Gates,
the army with Benedict Arnold and Kosciuszko.
And then you have the battle.
The Holy Triumvirate.
The only ones that won it all.
So they wind up. So then you got two things going on. Saratoga. So then they roll in through Vermont and they wind up at Saratoga. But then at the same time, Howe's coming up the Chesapeake, going the long way to Philly. And they had an interesting quote from John Adams. He says, while New England and New York are on Burgoyne with General Gates, let the middle states show England who really
So like how you're going to be.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, fine. We're taking care of them up there. Let Howe land in Philadelphia and we'll show them who's boss.
Take the city.
Yeah.
So Howe comes up. He's moving his troops to basically intercept the British in what would become the Battle of Brandywine. The Continental Congress.
Lafayette shows up.
Lafayette comes on the scene.
Lafayette shows up in Philadelphia, starts hanging out with Washington at this time.
They would become eventual then boys.
Yes.
The Continental Congress flees to York.
Quote, I have, quote, many foreign soldiers from Europe joined the cause, but none stood out as much as Lafayette. Ooh.
That hurt.
If only you could pronounce Kosciuszko as well as they did in this show. This was also, they added in, so I guess while this Fort Ticonderoga stuff was going on, they had that talk about that, the Indian guy, what was that guy's name? The Native American who was kind of like white.
Oh yeah.
And looked like they used him and sent him to Europe to kind of say like, help us. Like used him as like a propaganda to say like, look, the Native American like they're not a bunch of savages. Help them keep their land or whatever. They kind of used him as a propaganda.
Like Brant, Joseph Brant.
Sure.
That was the Indian.
Yeah. No. Okay. That's what they were. That was going on this whole time.
I have another note here. Darren Bonaparte talking like he actually fought in the American Revolution.
Yeah, he keeps saying we when he talks about them. I said, guess he's Indian, doesn't look it to me, wears his headdress.
American flag never flew in battle during the war. Burgoyne blew it at Bennington.
Like, I guess, so the issue was the Six Nations were split. And that's where they were trying to use that guy as the propaganda.
It's a bridge to all of them, yeah.
To all be loyalists.
He led a move on Fort Stanwix. Brant, Native American. Oneida helped give Americans a heads up. They were then boys with Americans. And I think who our friend Tom Dobbs from the movie Revolution went and stayed with.
After his son got whipped in his feet?
I believe so.
Yeah. Very important role in that film.
Quakers getting called out for being bitches by other patriots. Tom and Sarah Fisher got windows busted for not leaving a candle.
Yeah, so that's in Philadelphia. So the British were coming, and I think they kind of just gave him Philadelphia, right? They didn't fight in Philadelphia.
They fought at Brandywine and Trenton.
Well, yeah, but like they went through Philadelphia first.
No. Washington met them at Brandywine.
Right. Funny story, but so that's what so they're in Saratoga. They're coming down Saratoga, and then they're also coming up the Chesapeake. So they kind of this episode. That's what's so exciting about this episode. They go back and forth between these two theaters, basically.
Yeah.
So now we're back down to the Philadelphia area, and this is where they start talking about the Battle of Brandywine, which is close to where we grew up. I never knew it was a very important battle. And I do have a funny story if you don't mind, John. I have a pretty funny story. It's an ironic thing that I watched this when this was going on. My nephew is getting into skateboarding, heavily into skateboarding. This is fans, it's a little bit off topic, but it's just a funny coincidence of seeing this. He's a fan of skateboarding. My sister is trying to get him to start watching Viva La Bam, the show on MTV. Okay. Also, Bam Margera is from the area, right?
Right.
So MTV, I don't know. Did you ever watch that show?
I think I've seen it.
Or did you ever watch any shows on like MTV?
Jackass.
Like but like they have like Jackass wasn't the best example of this, where like they have reality shows, but they're obviously scripted.
Yeah.
Like, like scripted in a sense that like they generate storylines.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we were watching it. So we were trying to watch an episode of Viva La Bam, and I saw one that sounded interesting. It was they were doing a Civil War reenactment on his property, right? Mm-hmm. So what had the back? So then we watched it. I'm like, this is interesting. The backstory was, I forget exactly how, but they wound up being in the woods of his. He owns like this big piece of property, like in Brandywine, like right near where this battle would have been fought.
Okay,
and they find a cannonball. They just happened upon a cannonball like in their in the woods, right? So they like, oh, cannonball, cool, and they like bring it up. They like in very MTV fashion like rush over in town to some like historical like
society,
whatever. Like, hey, tell us if this cannonball is real. But the whole time they're talking about it as if the Battle of Brandywine was during the Civil War, not the Revolutionary War, and it's not corrected the entire episode. He's like, yeah, the Civil War, the Battle of Brandywine, they go to this historical society to get this like a prayer. I guess it was like a, I don't know, it was like a whatever. They go and they don't bring it up there. And then to the point where the whole episode is then based on they do a Civil War reenactment on this property. So like they wake up, the Union soldiers march up to the gates of the property and knock on the thing, and they have this whole Civil War reenactment with Union and Confederate soldiers. The whole episode is premised on the Battle of Brandywine being a Civil War, and I'm telling my sister, I'm like, that was in the Revolutionary. I'm sure of it. Like I had to Google it because I wasn't sure. This was before I watched the show, but it's like just before, so it was like in my radar, and I'm just like, How could they not educate the people? Like, you could watch this episode and end it thinking like that the Battle of Brandywine was in the Civil War. Couldn't believe it. Pretty weird, huh?
Was Bam's dad in it?
Yeah, and Don Vito. and all the boys were in it. We ended up not watching the entire thing because, as I alluded to, my nephew is of the generation that has zero attention span. Couldn't even watch the show. It's unbelievable. It was okay. It was kind of not a great episode to it was based off of the premise of a lot. Yeah. It's just weird. It was just weird thing to completely. They could have corrected him at one point. And what would have been cooler? Why did it have to be the Civil War? I feel like it would have been just as cool to do a Revolutionary War reenactment, right?
Like redcoats, yeah, the whole thing.
It would have been the same. It would have had the same. It would have been the same.
I just don't think anyone thought to say otherwise. They didn't care. Just didn't think it was that important.
Maybe nobody ever knew. Maybe no one ever researched it.
Until Ken Burns.
Well, because I'm thinking no, I think the only battle fought in Pennsylvania in the Civil War was Gettysburg. That was at least the most north it ever got. And I don't know. But then I'm was Brandywine technically south of latitudinally? I'm is it? And then oh no, it's the Revolutionary War. But anyway, back to Ken Burns. This battle is way more influential than I would have ever. I thought it was just some small skirmish. I never knew it was actually a big deal.
It was a bad loss for the Americans.
Yeah,
real bad loss.
Basically trying to keep him out of Philadelphia, as John said, and
this happened September 11th, 1777.
Wonder what anything else big ever happened on that date?
Not that I'm aware of. So this two big battles, a tale of two battles, really, for September of 1777, tale of two battles.
Yeah, and two outcomes.
Yes, our founding, George Washington, major loss. But then Saratoga, major W.
Major win, which we've talked about, I think, at nauseum on this show. But we know to do Kosciuszko, we get the shout out. We get the shout out that we've all been a very interesting way that the guy pronounced it. I'd have to check with the rangers over at the museum, but I forget. It was a very interesting way to pronounce it. I think I have it recorded here. Let me see. I can play.
Kosciuszko.
Is that how it was?
I don't know. Peter Coyote just does what he wants.
Ready?
Tadeusz Kosciuszko, a Polish volunteer for the Americans, had chosen the site and laid out brigade encampments, breastworks, and artillery emplacements all along the heights for 3/4 of a mile.
And that is all that they say about him.
And Matt and John would drive right past it all.
Oh, please. They got a picture of him looking kind of... They didn't pick the best picture of him to show.
No.
I would say. He looks boyish.
He was pretty new on the scene.
But anyway, so as we know, as the fans should know at this point, they won in Saratoga. So Washington lost at Brandywine, and then after Brandywine, there was a massacre in next door Paoli, where the British kind of payback from Trenton killed a bunch of people in Paoli. They called it the Paoli Massacre on their way to finally get into Philadelphia.
Congress flees to York.
And
specifically wants the Susquehanna River between them and the British. That's why they went to York and not Lancaster. They stopped in Lancaster, but then they decided, let's go a little further.
Let's go a little bit further. So a big win, a big loss. And then I think even Washington doesn't even get word that they won in Saratoga and that the French joined for quite some time. Because after the Paoli Massacre, George Washington finds himself in Valley Forge.
That's right.
For winter. Winter is coming, as they say. One weird thing from this episode, Saratoga...
With the Battle of Germantown, you forgot that too. That was another big ouch.
Oh,
before winter.
After the Paoli Massacre?
On October 5th, the Battle of Germantown, first time in the war that Washington hurled his men into the main column of the British Army. The siege at the Chew House. I remember that too. They were like, the whole British Army was in this dude's house.
Oh, and that's where they showed the Washington's tent.
Yeah.
Got a nice shot of the Washington's tent that we saw in person, kind of at the Museum of the American Revolution. They had a nice shot of that in the documentary.
In Congress in September, that same September, so Congress went to York. They came up with the Articles of Confederation, and I have here Ken Burns' interviewees obviously bagged it for not coming up with a strong central government.
They did shit on it like immediately. It was a very, then they came up with this, and didn't last. No, but in Saratoga, remember, how about the story of the two brothers hugging in the river? Do you remember that?
No. The Hudson River?
I think there was at one point in Saratoga, they were on opposite sides of the Hudson, because that was the whole point, was like they wanted to protect Saratoga, and that Bemis Heights helped with that, right?
Yeah.
They finally listened to Kosciuszko and took the high ground.
Right.
But then at one point in between fighting, two brother, there was a brother on the Loyalist side and there was a brother on the Patriot side, and they saw each other from across, and they screamed and yelled and met each other and hugged each other in the middle of the river. You don't remember that story in the documentary? I don't remember ever hearing about it. We've done spent a decent amount of time in Saratoga. We were there, and I don't remember hearing that. And the prisoners from Saratoga got sent to Charlottesville, and they were not treated very well there, similar to how we were treated there.
They were forced to go to a crappy microbrewery out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they probably got served better food than we got served at that place, honestly. They had better pizza.
Yeah, so there was so much. There was a lot. Except about Winchester, Virginia was a dumping ground for Loyalists and Quakers. They started talking about that.
Dumping ground? What do you
Just
mean?
put people there. A bunch of Loyalists were sent to Winchester.
It was cool. It was a good episode. That was kind of the end of episode 4. So big win, big loss. But the win was way bigger than the loss, obviously. Got the French involved. And
Do you think the French heard that Washington lost? Did they get news on one hand? Saratoga, that's interesting. And then the news came a little too late on Brandywine. Do you think they but they already signed up? We can't go back on our word now.
They'll have a name for it. They'll use us as a colloquialism.
Call us Indian givers. We don't want to be associated with that.
We don't want to be associated with Donnie Bonaparte in 200 years.
British officers forced their way into Philadelphia, and they were not nice. They weren't nice occupiers.
Shockingly,
and winter was tough for them.
Yeah, no, and I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself. When the Americans they eventually flee out of Philadelphia after, I forget. I'm trying to think how they Monmouth maybe start coming back down through Jersey. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but they talk about how they would just cut holes in the floor and use them as a bathroom.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Class act.
That's very classy. But they did make a point, and I think Yorktown was a big one of this, and Philadelphia would be one of similar to this too. Is when the British occupied Philadelphia, the Patriots in the town would leave. And then when the British would leave, when the British got kicked out and the Continental Army comes in, then the Loyalists would leave and the Patriots would come back. And it was a flow of
I'll take your house, you take mine.
Yeah. The whole population would change, basically.
The civilian population, yeah.
Yeah.
Because these were people, again, they did make a point of a third of the army a third of people were Patriots, a third were Loyalists, and everybody else was indifferent. Maybe more were indifferent than those. Those people just wanted to get by, so people probably just changed with the weather. The British are now here. All right.
Yeah, oh, yay.
The flag, and then you just have
they have both flags.
Yeah, whatever you need. Yeah.
But that's it for episode 4. I guess we can.
That was a good one. It was a good one. It was one worth watching. in like on its own.
Yeah, you could watch that one on your own.
Like, this could be I might watch the whole documentary and then
But don't let that fool you. If
listen
you're
to
trying
our podcast after you watch episode 4, like
I would say like just make sure that if you start it, make sure you get to episode 4, or just skip right to episode. It's one or the other,
yeah,
Episode 4 was interesting.
get the spark notes elsewhere.
But the only thing that I have to say, and I think I might have texted you, John, about it, is still it's episode 4. So now we're at the end of episode 4. We knew there were 6 episodes. We're at the end of episode 4, and they're only at Valley Forge. There's
Still 6 years left in the war. Yes.
So I was getting the feeling like a lot was going to get rushed or left out of like the Southern campaign.
I'm not shocked.
Maybe that's a little bit foreshadowing, but I guess we'll call it there for this episode. What do you think?
I think so.
A podcast episode.
Yep, I'd say so. You guys a lot to chew on. You can watch the documentary in succession as we're discussing these episodes, or just not watch the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Because my notes get better as we go. I have to be honest with you. I took better notes
Because it got better.
each episode.
It got more exciting. You got more into it. It got less about on the people who founded our country and more about the actual like war itself.
Yeah. At some point, you have to deal with the facts of that. There were actual battles and real people fought, and
there was actually like strategic wins and like impressive wins
and poor tactical losses and poor movements.
And I guess this is the point, because this was kind of the battle episode. I guess we could talk about this, and this is kind of what is interesting, and we'll probably talk about it more so when it ends. But you get the feeling that it was like the Americans just weren't giving up. And that was the whole thing, is like they just like kept dying. Like they, it was kind of one of those things where like they just were never going to give up.
That's what they said about Wash. I think it was the end of this episode. One of the interviewers basically made the point is it wasn't Washington was no Napoleon. He was no Frederick the Great. He wasn't some amazing general that could lead 100,000 man army across, a field in Europe. Like it would be in over his head. That's not who he was. They said like the onus on Washington, he just needed to not lose. You don't have to win the war, just don't lose it.
Yeah.
It was a classic, like just make a war of attrition kind of out of it so that the British public gets tired of it and they just bail. That was all he had to do. That's tough. I feel like, I don't know what's tougher. Like, being that army that can. Who do you think's more noteworthy in history, Napoleon or Washington?
You could argue there was no, like, it's a similar situation where, like, if America would have lost this war, it wouldn't have been. You could think it wouldn't have been a crowning jewel to Britain. Like they didn't have much to gain, but they had everything to lose in a sense. Like, yeah, it's the same for like a sporting event. Like if the Super Bowl champion. You're playing the last play, like a trap game, they call them, where you're playing some shitty ass team, and you have nothing to, you don't have much to gain by winning, but you have everything to lose by losing, and that's kind of where the British were.
Yeah,
and that's where but at the same time, on the other side of it is like the Americans had nothing to lose. Like if they lost, big deal. Obviously it would have been a big deal, but like what reputation are you losing?
Yeah,
but to win was huge. I think that's it. It's just like this is like they equate it later on. They equate it to like every other uprising, and there's uprisings where there's revolutions in other countries where and you're fighting empires and stuff. But it just seems like, and maybe it's just because we live in America and we've fed it the whole time. But this is like the ultimate underdog story.
Mm-hmm. It's a big one.
I mean, the British Empire was the biggest empire ever at this point, or
the sun never set on it. Yeah,
but it sure did, which we'll come to learn in the next episode. But yeah, you just get this feeling that like the Paoli massacre, they're losing Brandywine, they lost all these fights, but they've had a couple wins, right? They've had Trenton where they cheated basically. They were eating shelled pistachios that night. Let's just play it as it is. And then, a couple, but then Saratoga was the big one.
And this is all before they had proper military training, which we'll get into.
Yep. A little foreshadowing.
episode.
We have a little bit of a creepo coming into town. So be ready for that one. All right, fans, we'll catch you on the next one.
I got hairy legs.